Lisa settled more tightly into her seat, looking out the window. They had already left the college campus and were moving along the highway. Lisa and her husband, Mike Lars, just dropped off their youngest child, Samantha, at a new school. In just 2 weeks, they went from full house to empty nesters. It was a bittersweet feeling, but at the same time, exciting. Mike and Lisa met during their sophomore year of college, and Lisa fell desperately in love with him. They were inseparable for the next 2 years and married the summer before their senior year. Mike was in a 5-year program to earn his MBA, so Lisa found a teaching job at a small private school, while Mike completed his senior year. As soon as he graduated from high school, they moved to Mike's hometown, where Mike got a job at his father's small company as a production manager. Mike's first salary was not long in coming. Their son Joshua was born 6 weeks after Mike started his new job. The young couple were delighted with their son and were the picture of a happy young family. 2 years later, Samantha joined them. Everything was perfect. Lisa stayed home until Samantha went to school. She then returned to the classroom, landing a position as a 4th grade teacher in the same district where her children attended school. Lisa enjoyed working with children, and it helped fill her days while the children were at their schools. Her father-in-law owned a small manufacturing shop when Mike graduated from high school. The elder Lars was a remarkable engineer whose shop produced high-quality specialty parts for various industries, including space applications. Their niche is low production volume, high quality, with good unit costs. Low volumes meant higher unit costs, but Lars Manufacturing regularly beat its competitors on quality, even at higher prices. Mike and his dad made a great team. While John Lars was an excellent engineer, he was not an accomplished businessman. Mike knew enough engineering to reason intelligently, but he did not inherit his father's gift and passion. However, Mike was an excellent businessman. Mike handled sales, negotiations, and supply chain, leaving his father free to design and invent. Mike was able to keep prices down while John maintained quality. Together, they turned Lars Manufacturing into a leader in its niche. Tragedy struck 6 years ago when John Lars suffered a massive seizure and died at his desk. He was only 55 years old, but he was overweight and smoked. He has been vocal about how eating and smoking helps him focus on his projects. This may have been true, but it most likely cost him his life. Mike took full control of the business and hired 3 young engineers to replace John. 2 of these engineers were competent workers. The third, Tony Gillies, showed the same creative spark as John. 2 years later, Tony was named Director of Engineering and created much of the same partnership that Mike had with his father. The biggest difference was that John and Mike were one family and shared the responsibility of owning the company. Now that John is gone, Mike is the full owner of the company. This resulted in Mike working longer hours and traveling more than before. Lisa looked at her husband. At 40 years old, Mike still looked good. He learned from his father's example. His dark hair was slightly gray, and he kept himself in shape. Never a runner, Mike preferred water sports, such as rafting and scuba diving, to stay active. Lisa never liked getting wet, but she enjoyed lying in the boat while Mike and their 2 children went diving. It's not like Lisa let herself go. Long hours at the gym doing Pilates, Zumba, and yoga kept her in great shape. Lisa's toned figure, B-cup breasts, and toned ass turned heads wherever she went. As a 4th grade teacher, Lisa was popular with dads at back-to-school parties. It was a surprise that the kids went straight to college. Josh graduated 3rd in his class and was accepted into the same engineering school his grandfather attended. This school emphasized practice and forced students to complete 3 6-month internships over the course of a 5-year program. Josh will graduate with a master's degree in nuclear engineering in 5 years if he stays on schedule. Yes, where his grandfather focused on practical engineering, Josh wanted something a little more colorful. But Josh wasn't a surprise. It turned out to be Samantha. Sam graduated from high school a full 2 years early and pushed her older brother to 2nd place in their graduating class. Josh just laughed and was proud of his little sister. Sam had studied incredibly hard the last 3 years to graduate early, and he said she deserved it. Josh, however, teased her a little for missing valedictorina's place, academic title awarded to the most successful student in the graduating class of an academic institution, translasak, because of a B+ in art class. Now Sam was starting a pre-med and molecular biology program at an Ivy League school. Lisa was happy for her daughter, but sad that she would not be able to see her daughter attend a traditional high school. Lisa was a little biased, but she was sure that her daughter, at 18 years old, would be the undoubted winner in the fight for the title of prom queen. They had grown apart a bit over the past few years, and part of Lisa wished she could have had those 2 years to reconnect with Sam. Lisa, without saying a word, turned and looked out the window again. Now everything will be completely different. The next few weeks will be tough for everyone, but it had to happen. Any regrets? Mike asked. Lisa sighed. Some, but I will live with them. It's time for a new chapter in our lives. Mike laughed. You speak as if we are dying. With instant messaging and Skype, it will be almost as if the kids had never left. It's true, Lisa agreed. Over the next 4 hours of driving, Lisa and Mike carried on the casual conversations of a long-married couple. Neighbor gossip, chores, and other mundane things. Today was Thursday, and Mike took Friday off to do some things around the house, so Lisa was loading up a list of things that needed to be done. Finally, they arrived home, and Mike drove the minivan into his nest in the garage. Typically, the 3-car garage contained a 2-year-old minivan, Mike's Camry, and a 2013 Corvette that Mike bought himself. The Vet was a point of contention for Lisa. Mike just showed up with her one night 2 years ago without saying a word to her. Mike said it was a gift from the company that signed its largest contract to date, with a major contractor under the NASA contract. Technically, it belonged to the company, so Lisa had little reason to complain. The kids liked it immediately. As soon as the minibus was parked, Lisa pulled her slightly sore body out of it. 8 hours in the car today, dragging all of Sam's things into her dorm, and wild sex the night before, had left Lisa dying to take a hot shower and get into bed. I need to go get some milk, Mike said, also getting out of the minivan. Lisa moaned. Why didn't you stop on the way here? Their house was 10 minutes from town, and they passed 2 stores after getting off the highway. You looked like you needed to get home, and I didn't mind. Lisa felt a small bubble of gratitude that Mike was paying attention. At times, he was such a good person. I'll take the Vette. The evening is gorgeous, and driving is much more fun than in this minivan. Lisa waved it off. Before Lisa had time to enter the house, Mike was already sitting in the car and driving out of the garage. With the V8 roaring, he was gone. Lisa went up to her room and undressed to take a shower. She felt like she was missing something. Mike was such a great guy. In many ways, he was the ideal husband and father. But soon he will be gone, and Lisa will go to a new life. 3 years ago, Mike's constant travel began to bother her. Things were going well in the company, the children were wonderful, but Lisa felt lonely. Intellectually, Lisa understood that Mike was not to blame for the loss of her father, but emotionally, Lisa felt abandoned. One evening, while Mike was out and the kids were out with friends, Lisa went to a restaurant with some fellow teachers. They were having fun and drank several bottles of wine to keep up the fun. On a whim, they went to the club next door. She was dancing with Bob Weirner, a fellow teacher, when someone interrupted. It was Tony Gillis, an engineer from Mike's company. Tony was a great dancer, and Lisa had a great time. When the other teachers left, Lisa stayed to dance some more. As the evening drew to a close, Tony called a taxi to take her home. She hugged him warmly and pecked him on the cheek before climbing into the car. A week later, Mike was away on a business trip again, and Tony sent her a message inviting her to another night of dancing. Lisa was delighted and had another wonderful evening. She met several of Tony's friends, and they accepted her into their company. Lisa felt more alive than she had since she and Mike first got married. Lisa knew it was harmless and innocent fun, but she never told Mike about it. It was a little obscene, and she considered it her little revenge for Mike leaving her alone so often. Dancing became a regular occurrence while Mike was away on a business trip. Josh played hockey, so he usually left for training until 11 p.m. because they didn't go on the ice until 9. He returned home after school, had dinner, and left before Lisa returned from school. That's why he never noticed Lisa's absence. It was more difficult with Samantha. She didn't play sports, so Lisa signed her up for a series of enrichment classes at a local community college. The classes were held on different evenings, so Lisa did not have any pattern. Plus, she never went during the weeks Mike was home. Tony was a blessing and became her best friend and confidant. He sat at dinner before their dance and listened to her stories about how Mike left her alone. She admitted with a shy smile that now, during dances, she looked forward to his absence. Tony was her rock. Hesitant at first, Tony began to admit how he felt he was being misused by Mike. Tony explained how Mike ignored good engineering in order to squeeze more profit out of the business, how Mike sold ideas Tony developed to clients for huge amounts of money and never shared the proceeds with Tony. Lisa was furious with her new best friend and wanted to meet Mike immediately. Tony reassured her by saying that Mike legally bound him to the contract he signed when he first joined the company. The company owns the intellectual property rights to all employee developments, so nothing forces Mike to share the wealth. Angry that her husband had abandoned her and treated her friend poorly, Lisa leaned over and hugged Tony. The hug turned into a passionate kiss. They quickly left the restaurant and headed straight to Tony's townhouse. That evening, they never went to the dance. Lisa refused to call it an affair. She was in love with her true soulmate. The sex was wild and fun. Tony was the man she was meant to be with. A 36-year-old mother of 2 and a school teacher wanted to divorce her husband and start a new life with her true love, her husband's 29-year-old co-worker. They still went to dances once a week, and when the kids and Mike were away, Lisa often found herself in Tony's bed. However, 2 things prevented her from going through with the divorce. The first is her children. She had seen enough of her students go through divorce and didn't want them to grow up with 2 families. Mike was a wonderful father when he was at home, and she had enough residual feelings for him to want him to still be with the children, but she didn't want to give them away. The second proposal came from Tony. Mike had just promoted Tony to director of engineering, with a much higher salary and a larger annual performance bonus. Tony wanted to wait a while to establish himself in his position and relationships with clients. Tony said that Lisa could get the company in the divorce and they would run it together, as it should be. Tony argued that the engineering and production staff would support Tony over Mike, who was considered the absentee boss. Together, the lovers developed a plan for their future and support. They waited until Samantha graduated from school before moving forward with their plan. At the same time, Tony will develop his support among employees so that they are ready when the time comes. Lisa came out of the shower naked. For the first time all day, her muscles were relaxed. The night before, she and Tony had celebrated Sam's departure for school, and her lover had driven her to the point of exhaustion. Sam's early graduation allowed them to move up their plan by 2 whole years, and Tony was very happy. The hot water and lotions worked wonders, and now she was ready to crawl into bed. Hopefully, Mike wouldn't want to celebrate with her today. Wrapping a large fluffy towel around her body, Lisa walked into the large dressing room she shared with Mike. She grabbed her robe and turned to leave, but suddenly froze. She turned to look into the closet. All of Mike's things were gone. Lisa ran over to Mike's dresser and saw that the top had been cleared. She opened the drawers. They were also empty. All of Mike's personal belongings were also missing from the bathroom. Lisa ran down the stairs and saw nothing wrong in the kitchen. It was only in the living room that she noticed that some family photos were missing from the wall, and Mike's movie collection was also gone. Her panic was complete when she reached Mike's home office, which had been completely cleared out. She sank to the floor as the enormity of the situation dawned on her. Mike abandoned her. He waited until Sam left for school and then abandoned her. A sudden fear shot through her that Mike knew about Tony and their plans. Lisa ran back up the stairs to get her cell phone. She should have called Tony. Running into her room, Lisa noticed an envelope lying on a DVD in the middle of her bed. With shaking hands, Lisa took the envelope and saw her name written in Mike's handwriting on the front. She opened it and read, "Lisa, I've loved you since we first met. You were the only one I wanted to spend my whole life with. That it would never be true was my biggest failure. I couldn't avoid travel and still keep the business going. You never said you had problems. Instead, you threw yourself into the arms of that sneaky Tony. I was shocked when I found out that you had a connection with this snake in the grass. If there was ever an Eddie Haskell creep, it was Tony. Tony kissed my ass in the office and then hit me in the back while I was away. I found out too late, after I promoted the rat, what he really was like. He turned my employees against me, just as he turned my wife into his personal whore. One misquote here, one innuendo there, and the engineering staff was ready to quit en masse. I was an idiot and didn't know anything about your affair until it dragged on for a year. When I read the investigator's report, I realized that it was too late to save our marriage. There was no turning back after this betrayal. The only thing I agree with you on is waiting until Sam finishes school. Don't worry about telling the kids. They already know. Actually, it was Sam who told me. Our 14-year-old daughter had to tell her father that her mother was a cheater. Remember that surprise diving trip I took Sam to the Keys? She returned home and overheard a rather frank conversation that you were having with your friend. She collapsed on the floor, and you completely lost sight of her as you left to meet this asshole. Sam called me to come home. It took me the entire 4 days of the weekend to get her to control herself. Of course, I later found out that you spent almost all this time in Tony's bed and whined that I left you. Since we returned from that trip, she has been in consultation with me. You know Sam wanted to finish school early. When I decided to stay with you until she finished school, Sam decided to work hard to graduate early. I almost ended it right then and went for divorce, but Sam demanded that she could do it. I was so proud and shocked at the same time by her decision. We didn't tell Josh until after he graduated. Since then, he has been seeing consultant Sam. He was shocked that his mother could do such a thing. I had to show him an edited version of my evidence to get him to believe me and Sam. I made him understand that you still love him and his sister and stayed for them. I think this is the only thing that can save your relationship with him. Good luck with Sam. As for your and your lover's plan to steal my company, you still didn't understand that the company belongs to a family trust. After his father's death, his descendants became shareholders. These are our 2 children and me. It will never be considered part of our community property in a divorce. Only the salary I received, my pension, and my house fall into this category. That's why I asked the trust to buy my vete. I can't sell the trust, but I can, with the help of the board of trustees, sell the company to the trust. The trustees consist of Josh, Sam, and myself. When Lars manufacturing employees arrive at the office on Monday, they are in for a real shock. I would tell you, but why spoil the surprise? I found the letter you planned to deliver to me when I was served. As the song says, you probably felt like you had to make things right. Well, I have news for you, and you will soon find out that it is true. And you'll have to eat your lunch alone, but I've already left. If only you would talk to me. Last time, with love, Mike. P.S. The DVD contains some of your greatest hits. Be sure to watch the video in the folder called Frank Tony. Lisa collapsed on her bed at the thought of her children knowing what their mother had done and planned to do to their father. "Oh God," she cried. "I lost them all." When Lars manufacturing employees arrived at the office, they were greeted by an email informing them that the company had been sold to a much larger firm that wanted to fill their niche. Mike never showed up at the office. In his place were new owners and Mike's corporate lawyer. Teams that worked long hours in production and support found that their pensions were guaranteed for at least another 5 years of work or a buyout equal to the remaining time. The engineers who sided with Tony did not receive such a guarantee. They turned their backs on Tony when his promises of a lucrative future turned to ashes. Tony tried to call Lisa to find out what happened, but his calls went straight to voicemail. He knew Mike had been home all weekend, so he wasn't expecting a chance to talk to Lisa. Now she avoided his calls. In the end, Tony, in a fit of desperation, decided to go to her to try to save his plans. He drove up to Lisa's driveway and began looking for any sign of Mike. Looking into the garage, he saw that the Corvette was gone. That meant Mike wasn't home either. The doorbell rang and there was no answer, so he simply entered. "Lisa?" he called. There was no answer. He called several times while searching the house. He finally found Lisa sitting on the bed, watching a video on a flat-screen TV mounted on the wall. "Lisa?" he asked. Lisa, seemingly not paying attention to him, held out her hand with the remote control and pressed the play button. The TV came to life, and Tony was shocked to hear his own voice coming from the screen. "Well, she's hot," Tony said on the screen. Tony realized it was his own entertainment room and a few of his friends. "I don't think I could have done it if she wasn't like that. A little care, and she was instantly in my bed. I'll take this asshole's company by sleeping with his old lady so she can give it to me. Then, I will wait a few years and do the same with his daughter. She's hot, but I can't do this with a teenager." This was met with rude laughter and vulgar sentences shouted by his friends. Tony remembered when the video was recorded. This was 8 months ago. On the same day, it was announced that the 16-year-old in question would be allowed to graduate from school that year. Tony was so glad that his plans had moved forward 2 whole years. Lisa paused the video. "Get out," she said in a dead voice. "You cost me everything, and Mike destroyed us both. Lisa, Get out! If Mike hadn't brought his 40 Sig Sauer with him, I would have shot you as you walked in the door, and then myself. Just go away. Good luck finding a job in this field. Mike will take care of it." Then Lisa turned and faced the wall. A few minutes or hours later, when she turned around, he was gone. She never saw him again. Lisa was served on Tuesday. She wasn't surprised to see that Mike was completely fair in his divorce proposal, 50-50, with her keeping the $1.2 million house and Mike taking most of their long-term investment. A lump sum balanced between the current value of his pension and her pension received from the school district. An educational trust that covered the children's education and expenses. But for this justice, there will be no alimony and no other contacts. In return, the videos will never see the light of day. Mike would have full custody of Sam, but she would be away at college for most of the year, so it was almost a moot point. However, a personal note from Sam said she refused to be forced to spend the next 2 years of school holidays with my mom and her lover. Reading those words, written in her sweet daughter's handwriting, was even worse than those damn videos. What has she done? Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one.